First in Eyewitness News live at 5 tonight. New developments in a deadly plane crash in Plainville, which is about 10 miles from the Rhode Island border. We first told you about this last night on Eyewitness News at 10 and 11.
The plane crashed right into a home, but the family who was inside the house at the time escaped. New at 5 tonight, we've obtained the audio tape of the exchange between the pilot and air traffic controller before the crash. We're also learning more about the victims on the plane who were killed.
We have in-depth coverage for you live at 5. Shantae Lance has more on the family of 3 who lost their lives. But first, let's go to Eyewitness News reporter Susan Campbell, who's live at the crash scene with the very latest on the investigation.
The NTSB will be here for 2 to 3 more days working on this investigation. No word on when the plane will be removed from the back of this home where it still is, but we now do know the 3 people who died on board were a father, a mother, and their college-age daughter. A home now boarded up, the scene of a deadly plane crash.
It was like flying sideways like that.
Mary O'Rourke lives next door. She was outside on her porch when the crash happened Sunday evening.
I saw like the back of the plane going into the side of the house on the roof. And then all of a sudden there was just this huge boom noise, and I couldn't even stand straight because it vibrated me so much.
An audio recording from the cockpit to air traffic control reveals the pilot, Dr. Rick Callister, reported engine problems.
We had a real bad vibration. We're losing engines.
About a minute later, no response from the cockpit. All 3 on board died, while a family of 4 on the ground escaped to safety.
Just trying to figure out what's next.
Aaron Rice tells us his wife and 2 children, a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old, were upstairs when the plane hit their home.
Because the people in the plane didn't come out of this alive, that's probably where your attention needs to lie. We need to have, support for that family. They're in far graver circumstances than we are. We'll get through this. Hopefully they will too.
NTSB investigators on the scene say it's too early to say anything about the cause of the crash.
The investigation is very young, so it's also very broad.
The NTSB's preliminary report is expected in 10 to 14 days. The people who live in this neighborhood have really rallied around the family that lived in the home that was hit. They set up a GoFundMe page. We have a link to that website on our website, WPRI.com. Now, coming up new at 6, the NTSB investigator explains exactly how that cockpit recording is going to help with the investigation. For now, live in Plainville with the mobile newsroom, Susan Campbell, Eyewitness News.
We begin with new developments in a deadly plane crash in Plainville. Police have tentatively identified the 3 people who were killed yesterday.
A family from Tennessee, Dr. Joseph Rick Callister, his wife Betty, and their college-age daughter Nicole.
Investigators say it appears the parents were taking their daughter on a trip to look at a school.
And we have in-depth coverage for you tonight. Eyewitness News reporter Shantae Lance is speaking to the pilots at the airport where the pilot was advised to make an emergency landing.
But first, let's go to Susan Campbell, who's live at the scene.
An NTSB investigator here at the scene tells us it's too early to say what may have caused this crash, but we know from audio recordings in the cockpit that the pilot reported engine trouble. Moments before a plane crashed into this home, the pilot, Dr. Joseph Rick Callister, told air traffic control he had an emergency.
We're not able to maintain altitude.
Air traffic control tried directing the pilot to the nearest airport. When he said he couldn't make it there, air traffic control told him to land on I-495.
We had a real bad vibration. We're losing engines.
About 1 minute later, there was no response from the cockpit.
It sounded like a bomb. It was really, really loud. And when it hit, I could feel the heat on my face.
Now the NTSB is on the scene. An investigator for the agency tells us the cockpit audio recording will be helpful in the investigation.
Certainly we'll focus some of our attention on the engine, as the pilot reported an issue with the engine, but it's far too early at this stage of the accident investigation to do anything different than we otherwise would, which is look at all of the different areas and issues that could affect the flight.
The preliminary report is expected within 2 weeks. The full report could take up to a year. This morning, we spoke with the man who lived in that home. He tells us his wife and 2 children were upstairs on the 2nd floor when the plane hit their home. He says even looking at the destruction you can see, he says he knows his family is fortunate. Live in Plainville with the mobile newsroom, Susan Campbell, Eyewitness News.